the GitHub lab itself. So in lab 1, it's quick. So lab 1 is really focusing on the basics, right? The two sets of the lifecycle step, which is design and develop, what we call create here. And if I scroll down to the instruction, so what this step is, so the question to answer here is, how do I use the Swagger file that I have today that I built to generate a new proxy? Essentially, this is the step this is the instruction that with the lab. Let me just quickly run through the labs here. So using an aspect that we have a login. So coming to this site, there's this. Let me just copy this specs. So these are all wizard-based driven activities, right? So basically, I have one here. Let me just remove this. So I create, import, and URL. So you can have the file or URL, file or URL in this case. The API gem. Import. So what you get now is a spec file loaded into Apigee. So this is where you have a live editor and actually have this own mapping, right? So this is what we are trying to do here. Import the spec file and generate and load it onto Apigee as part of the API spec that you are building a new proxy today. So next step is really creating a new proxy. So the terminology that we're using in API in Apigee is every development unit is a proxy, right? Within a proxy, you could have multiple APIs. So let me just expand this. Create a new proxy. Open an API spec. See, I have a spec that I uploaded earlier. So what I'm trying to do here is use the spec as a way of inputting and generating a proxy. So select. And you see all these are pre-populated also. I have the name. So now I have my base, which is the exposure side of Apigee. I have my endpoint I pick up from the spec file. For now, I'm just looking at pass-through. You could even set up quota and all those things as part of the setup. So then just now we create using a spec file to create a proxy, and what happens is actually pick up the various base URI, and these are our individual APIs. So we have secure and default, so we can put, so default is where the only difference between here, default and secure, is sometimes you will want to just keep it open for internal for testing. You want to secure it for HTTPS, which is SSL enabled. So we can actually turn on and off on demand. So these are the various environments. So as I mentioned, you can actually deploy the same proxy into different environments. So for example, you do a testing, you want to promote to the high-level testing order, you can do that as well. So in this case, I'll create under test for now and deploy. So it's using the configuration that we went through the wizard earlier. It's using the spec file. So it's generating the API, the proxy now. So in this case, bear in mind, Apigee is about creating proxy. The proxy contains APIs. Let me just edit the proxy today and have a look. So what I've done is I create a URL. This is where this is the URL that you will be exposing to the app consumer. So and you have the backend, which is the target endpoint, and this is my base part, right? Which is here as well. So my first part of it is our SES namespace. And second part of it is where you have different base path for different proxy. Right? So let me just go into develop. And you can see that just now in the spec file, we have things like get products, get product details, etc. And there's a trace window we mentioned earlier. So this is where you can start the trace. So let me just start the trace and do some testing. And so I've done my proxy. I've deployed on tests, and I'm now ready to test it. Let's do this testing here on maybe Postman or maybe browser. We'll just do a browser. Let's try this. Yes, maybe not. Browser. Sorry. As you can see, based on the proxy, I have invoked the Apigee proxy, and it's calling the products API. So if I go back to trace, so I have an error here, which is fine. So I have a 200. So this is the trace window you can look at and see what happens behind the scene. Right? So a proxy call comes in here. This is sending to an endpoint, and you can see what is being sent to the backend, and the response is coming back from the end system, right? So this is essentially what Lab 1 is trying to, is actually guiding you guys to do. Lab 1 is really looking at creating using a spec file, which you can import. It could be a file, could be a URL. Creating a proxy to it, where just now we went through using the wizard. So if you look at the whole site, it's all about the wizards. You can actually augment some of the configuration for the wizards. And these are the APIs that is being picked up as part of the spec file. And what we have done is also testing this, right? So this is essentially Lab 1. Okay? So I think we're coming to the end for part 1 of our virtual API jam. I think tomorrow we will continue our labs and our Apigee expert. So you guys have been asking questions in Q&A. Continue to ask that question. And tomorrow my colleague Dean, he's actually our technical solution consultant. He's kind of the SME for Apigee, where he will bring you through the rest of the labs that we have today and have prepared, right? So as you all know, the whole jam day is like the whole jam API jam is 3 days, and what we have done is broken down the labs into multiple days, and you can see all the labs that we're going through will be part of this. Tomorrow you'll be going through lab 2, 3 onwards. And you can continue to ask questions. I see that there are questions that's being asked on the Q&A. Please continue to ask the questions. Please continue to try out the Lab 1. I think the key thing, the objective of Lab 1 is for you to first understand and familiarize yourself with the UI. That's number 1. Second thing is generate the proxy with the spec file that will give you a good context for the Apigee platform, the development platform itself. And also some of the features that we'd like you guys to explore as well will be things like the develop, which is the UI that we have here, and try to play around with the trace, because when you do the trace, you can actually have a very good insight of what's happening within the API call. Okay, so thank you for your time today. We're coming to the end for day 1. So you're not end yet. So today is only day 1. We have day 2, which is Dean. Day 3, if I'm not wrong, will be my colleague Saravanan. They will bring you through various labs for hands-on. So today is very much focused on overview, giving a good give you a concept of an API program, API platform itself, and also even the API lifecycle. And jumping in for first lab is to give you to understand how we actually implement the API lifecycle within the platform, having some hands-on, basic hands-on to kind of get familiarized with the UI. Tomorrow, I think my trusted colleague Dean will be bringing you through, guys, the next 2 labs or 3 labs, if I'm not wrong. Lab 2, which is really looking at how do I secure my API proxy that I developed in lab 1, giving you an API key, how do I make sure I create a product around it, and maybe in the third day is really focusing on advanced security features that we talk about in terms of OAuth. How do I make my API even more secure with that mechanism, right? So I guess we have come to the end. So please, Dean will hope to see you guys tomorrow, same time. We will have the same channel. Okay. So please continue to ask your question through Q&A. My colleagues and I, the whole Apigee expert team, will be reviewing the Q&A question, and we'll continue to monitor the channels for the end of the day. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.